It was one of those tense mornings in Judge Judy's courtroom, the kind where the air feels heavy even before the case begins. The bailiff called everyone to order, and in walked two young couples whose lives had become entangled in a web of family, money, and broken promises. At the center of it all stood Amanda, a 24-year-old mother of two, calm but visibly frustrated. And across from her sat her younger brother Brandon and his girlfriend Nicole, both just 20, fidgeting nervously as they prepared to face the sharpest tongue in daytime television. Judge Judy adjusted her glasses and leaned forward. "Whose brother is he?" she asked, already piecing the story together before the parties could even explain. "Mine," Amanda replied. From that point on, it was clear this wasn't just about money. It was about family boundaries, responsibility, and a lesson in what happens when kindness meets immaturity. Amanda worked as a front desk representative at a hotel, juggling long shifts while raising two small children, Madeline, 3.5, and baby Ileana, just 10 months old. Her husband, Todd, was a heavy equipment operator, often gone for long hours, and together they managed to keep things afloat. But things weren't easy. With two young kids, expenses piling up, and a growing need for space, the couple decided to move to a bigger home, a 3-bedroom house with an unfinished basement. It seemed perfect for a fresh start. At the time, Brandon and Nicole were struggling. They were young, barely starting their lives together, and they needed a place to live. Amanda, trying to help her brother, invited them to move in. The idea was simple. They would share the rent and expenses, making life easier for everyone. The lease was signed by all 4 of them, at least on paper, and for a brief moment, it looked like things might work out. But good intentions don't always lead to good outcomes. The house had 3 bedrooms upstairs and an unfinished basement that could be used as a 4th. Amanda and Todd took one room, their 2 kids shared another, and the 3rd bedroom was offered to Brandon and Nicole. But during the walkthrough, Brandon turned down the offer. He didn't want to be upstairs near the children. He wanted peace, quiet, and privacy. So they chose the basement, despite it being bare, with concrete floors and unfinished walls. It smelled like cat urine, Nicole later complained, describing it as cold, loud, and unlivable. Still, at the time, they made no formal complaints. They settled in, and for a while, everyone seemed to manage. But cracks began to form. Amanda noticed her brother and his girlfriend weren't contributing as much as agreed. Meanwhile, Brandon and Nicole started to feel judged and controlled. Tensions brewed under the same roof. When Nicole found out she was pregnant, emotions ran even higher. She missed her family in Minnesota, she said. She felt trapped and criticized in Amanda's home. Eventually, the young couple decided to leave. They packed their things and moved back in with Nicole's parents, where they could live rent-free and, as she explained, save money for our own apartment. Amanda and Todd were left with an empty basement and a higher rent they had counted on sharing. Bills piled up and resentment grew. Amanda felt betrayed. She believed she had opened her home out of kindness, and in return, she was left paying the price. So she took her brother and his girlfriend to court, suing them for the unpaid rent. In the courtroom, Judge Judy listened carefully, interrupting often with her trademark bluntness. "Why did you move out of the house?" she demanded. Nicole tried to explain that Amanda and Todd lectured us all the time, and that she needed to see her mother, who was helping her during pregnancy. Judy's sharp eyes cut through the excuses. "That's not a reason to break your lease," she said. "They didn't make you pregnant." The courtroom chuckled, but her point was clear. Emotional discomfort doesn't cancel a legal obligation. Brandon tried to argue that they never understood they were fully responsible under the lease. "We thought it was temporary," he said. He claimed Amanda had taken pictures of their driver's licenses and told them the landlord just needed to know who was staying there. "She didn't give us time to read it," Nicole added. Judge Judy raised an eyebrow. "She didn't give you time?" she repeated. "You're an adult. Nobody forced you to sign anything without reading." Amanda calmly explained that the decision to move to a larger house was based on everyone's agreement to share costs. Without Brandon and Nicole, she said, they wouldn't have moved at all. They were the deciding factor, she told the judge. "When they left, they stuck us with the higher rent and extra utilities." The arguments went back and forth. Brandon and Nicole claimed the basement wasn't livable, that they'd been treated unfairly, that Amanda wanted to control their lives. Amanda insisted they had every choice, and that the basement was their own decision. She said they'd even cleaned it for them before moving in. It was a classic family standoff, one side claiming betrayal, the other claiming mistreatment, and Judge Judy had heard it all before. When Brandon mentioned that Amanda had texted them to get out, Judy wasn't impressed. "You left," she said flatly. I read your answer. There's nothing here to suggest they kicked you out. To her, it was simple. They had signed the lease, chosen their room, lived there, and then walked away without paying their share. Then came the financial breakdown. Amanda said they owed $500 a month. They moved out at the end of July and hadn't paid for August or September. Judge Judy tapped her pen. That's $1,000, she said. That's what I'm awarding you. Nicole tried to protest, but Judy cut her off. You're 20 years old, she said firmly. You're babies. You made an adult agreement and you didn't hold up your end. She turned to Amanda. Either find a new roommate or learn to live in the place by yourself, which I think you probably will. Amanda nodded, a small smile breaking through her exhaustion. When it was over, Judge Judy gave her final words with her usual blend of humor and authority. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000, that's all. The gavel hit the bench, echoing through the room. Case closed. As the couples walked out of the courtroom, the contrast between them was stark. Amanda and Todd held their heads high. They hadn't wanted a fight, but they needed fairness. Brandon and Nicole, meanwhile, looked deflated, quietly retreating back into the hallway, perhaps realizing that adulthood comes with consequences. Outside, Amanda reflected on what had happened. She hadn't wanted to drag her brother into court, but sometimes family love isn't enough when money and responsibility are involved. She had tried to help, opened her home, shared her space, and ended up being left behind when things got hard. It was a lesson learned the hard way, that generosity must be balanced with boundaries, and good intentions can't always fix poor decisions. For Brandon and Nicole, the lesson was different but equally important. Signing a lease, committing to rent, and living under someone else's roof required maturity and follow-through. They had thought of the arrangement as temporary, a favor, not realizing that legal documents don't care about family dynamics. Judge Judy's courtroom had once again served as more than just entertainment. It was a snapshot of real life, how people stumble through responsibility, communication, and pride. Beneath the laughter, the scolding, and the quick verdicts, there was always something deeper, a reminder that doing what's right often means facing uncomfortable truths. By the end of the day, Amanda went home to her children, probably feeling a mix of victory and sadness. She had won the case, but it came at a price, another crack in the fragile bridge that connected her to her brother. Meanwhile, Brandon and Nicole went back to Nicole's parents' house, where they wouldn't pay rent, but would carry the weight of a public scolding that would likely replay in their minds for weeks. In that small courtroom, under the sharp eyes of Judge Judy Sheindlin, a simple family dispute over rent had turned into a profound lesson about adulthood, accountability, and family loyalty. The message was clear. Kindness doesn't erase responsibility, and no matter how young or overwhelmed you are, once you sign your name, you stand by it. And as the cameras faded and the gavel's echo dissolved into silence, Judge Judy's voice lingered, firm, wise, and unflinching. You're babies, she had said, but that's how growing up starts. Not with comfort, but with consequences.